Nets side, you do have James, right? When he's great, he is great. There's some times in the last 3-4 minutes where you're like, what is going on?
But the difference is, and what I like about the way the Nets have set it up, he got 2 straight killers to his left and right.
Like, even in the, what's the name? He'd throw 4 turnovers in like 30-something seconds. You'd be like, who do you look? James Harden.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what I said. That right there will cost series. Just like he's trying to do a bounce pass, they're up 10, or he's going to shoot a step back 3 because he wants a heat check. The Lakers not going to do that. So that's his problem. Now on the Lakers' problem is Westbrook not knowing who's going to take that big shot.
Well, but the thing about Westbrook, which we saw the way the Houston Rockets guarded, the Lakers guarded the Rockets. They just double-teamed James every time. Yeah. They made him pass it to James. They didn't leave the corner with Eric Gordon, right? Or they made him pass it to Russell. Now, Russell has a decision. Now, you can make down some threes. He can knock down threes. Like, Russell is a gamer. Like, first ballot Hall of Famer, whatever.
Easy.
But is that the shot? Like, when you're talking about winning championships, like, that shot right there, when Bron's at the top of the key, they send a double team, they throw it to him, they don't leave the corner, Russ is open for a 3. If Russ goes 2 for 9, they're going to lose that game. If Russ goes 2 for 5 and the rest of them, he's driving under control in the paint, maybe kicking, maybe floating, maybe getting to the free throw line, then they win that game. The problem is we've seen too many of the 2 for 9s from Russ. And it's like, he's like your asshole self. He's such a great talent and so competitive. All he wants to prove to people is that I can do it and I don't care what you think. But I'm like, dog, like, you guys, we should have been playing y'all in 2016. We should not have been playing the Golden State Warriors. They were now Clay had a great game 6, this and all this stuff, but it's like, dog, like, y'all let that shit go. We 100% thought that you guys were the better team, the more rested team. You had a 3-1 lead. You had to beat them one time. And it wasn't all Russ's fault. I'm not blaming it on Russ, but there was just too many times where it was turnovers or like mistakes that you're like, dude, you guys are too great to let this slip through your fingers. And you know, ever since then, they just haven't really recovered. Like when you look at the teams that he's been on.
Well, most of the teams he's been on been trash anyway.
I'm not going to disrespect Russ. Like
no, I'm just saying some of the teams he's been on has actually been trash.
The last thing I'll say is this, man. Like
come on, that
Russ
Houston team. That Houston team, you got 4 guys under 6'5".
But that was.
I got into it with who was it? It wasn't like I got into him, but with Duncan Robinson, it like. Did something, and I threw the ball off of him or whatever, and who was it? Jimmy? I think Jimmy Butler might have got an offensive foul on me or something. And I just remember Jay was on the bench, and somebody said something, and I looked over, and it was Jay. I said, what? I said, what you say? What you on? You know what I'm saying? So he was giving me that energy, you know what I mean? And I respected it, because he was looking out for his teammate. So I was like, we can do this.
You know what's funny? It's like players who play, right? They think, they practice, they train, they play against. They know just by looking at how you play, like, oh, I can mesh with him. I can mesh with him. We need him. The player himself has better moves than the general manager can make, right? And it's weird how players that are done, they don't actually get that position.
Nah, it's real. And I say this, man, that's why JJ has done a great job. And I always say this, when I was younger and came into the league and I paid attention, and sometimes the GM's not communicating with the players. Mm-hmm. Now, at the end of the day, the player ain't got to be the one saying, do this or do that, but you should ask. Yeah. You should ask, because what I learned, even in Houston, was that at times they try to say, oh, this guy makes this much, this guy makes this much. Oh, we can just substitute him in. Right?
No, you can't.
No, I'm serious, but that's the way sometimes they try to operate. They be like, oh, this guy shoots this percentage and his defense, oh, their games are similar, just plug him in. It ain't plug and play like that. It's not, because it's chemistry and it's accountability. And I say this all the time, man, Trev is my brother anyway, but the way that he could talk to me, the way that he could talk to James when we was in Houston, you couldn't put no value on that.
And that's why certain people, no matter where they go, they just win. They just know how to glue everything together.
Yeah, you figure it out, because somebody got to You could have some of the coolest teams in the league where everybody just tight and you know, man, getting their ass whooped every night. Is that cool?
Yeah, for real.
Is
That's
that
not
cool?
fun.
That's
saying,
serious.
but
they best friends and they can go out there and get their ass whooped and
Yeah.
it's cool.
But if we close, I got to be able to be real with you and tell you what needs to be said about your game. You know what I mean? Instead of talking about you over here and then you end up traded or out the league, nah, that ain't it.
That's one thing I learned early, but I learned it on accident because I couldn't beat up or I couldn't fight none of my teammates.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever they said, I had to just listen to. But what I understood was this: no matter what you say about my game, if I look at it in the right way, it actually helps me improve my game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you yelling, no matter how loud the volume is, if you saying, oh, motherfucker, you ain't going left, you doing this, and they know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I need to work on my left.
Right.
So now if I work on my left, I'm that much better of a player.
Right.
So most people just take it like, oh man, and they'll want to listen to what's actually gonna improve their game because someone's actually nitpicking at it. Like, yo, you don't do this, you can't do that, you can't. Take that in.
Right.
Fix it.
Right. Or listen
Better
to
player.
what I'm saying,
Yeah.
not how I'm saying
Yeah,
it.
they listen to the value, not understanding that. Listen, emotions in the game. Like, don't listen to that. What is he trying to say? Get back on defense. My bad. I turned the ball over and then get back on defense.
My volume always up too. My volume always up. But when you talk about it like as a leader, and I think it is what it is, but everybody always talk about what you've done sort of negatively, what they see or whatnot, but they don't see the text messages after the game, you know what I mean, where you building a guy up or where you letting them know, like later, man, like hell of a game, way to play, or you know what I'm saying? And that comes with it. Everybody ain't always gonna like how you do or how you operate, but that's cool.
So 2011, obviously Lakers make the trade. You think you're going to be a Laker. Lee comes in, nixes the deal. But thinking about, obviously, Kobe's birthday this week, getting the opportunity to play with Kobe in the Lakers, how successful do you think those squads would have been?
Man, it would have been fun. It would have been a lot of fun. Partly I know that just strictly off me and Kobe, you know what I mean, and our relationship. I remember 2008 Olympics when we was staying at the Wynn before we went. I remember waking up early in the morning, we'd be in the weight room, you know what I mean? I'm young too, and you gotta realize Kobe is Kobe, you know what I mean? But a lot of people don't know, we used to get into it all the time when we played against each other. Even when we played against each other in the playoffs, before that trade happened, because we played them in the playoffs that year, 2010, 2011. Me and Kobe got texts because we had the same mentality. You know what I mean? And I think I was probably most excited to play with Kobe at the time because people didn't realize Kobe could shoot the ball as well as he did, right? Like he could be a spot-up shooter, right? And I would have had an opportunity to break people down at times and he's still gonna ISO you, or murder you. But it's another dimension to his game that I don't think he ever really got a chance to show is that he can catch and shoot. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's crazy. I'll tell that story at some point, too, about all the stuff that went into it. And it's actually unfortunate that two of the most important people in that story aren't with us no more, Kobe and David Stern. You know, that's the toughest part about it, where you be like, man, I want to tell this story. I'm going to tell this story one day, and then life happens, right? So.
What's so funny is, so my agent at the time, rest in peace, Dan Fagan.
Dan Fagan.
So when it got nicked, I'm like, Dan, what happened? So he was like, he said it was unfair, right? So
Unfair for me to go to the Lakers?
Yeah, so he said it's unfair, and he said, so what was in the background of all that was Dwight Howard being traded for Bynum, right? So I remember, I'm in Orlando. So like I'm already talking to Otis, and it was like, Dwight don't want to stay.
You was in Orlando?
I'm in Orlando. So you remember, this is when the amnesty was coming.
Yes, I've been in all the CBA negotiations too.
So Orlando, so they're trying to figure out if they were going to throw me in the deal and force Lakers. If you want Dwight, you're going to have to take Gilbert's contract too.
Oh, you was gonna come to the Lakers too?
Then I was probably going to get amnestied.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
then, right.
Because I'll tell you one day what me and Cole said on the phone when we was talking about that. Because Dwight was for sure probably about to come with us too.
Yeah, so basically, after all y'all, the super team got together, y'all had too much money left over. That was the reason it got nicked. So Dan Fagan hit Mark Cuban and did the numbers. And it would have like destroyed the league for at least 10 years.
What, if the trade would have happened?
So if you went, Dwight went, you guys had about $24 to $30 million left in cap space. So at that time, you're talking about the starting price about 12, 13 million on the max contract. Mm-hmm. So you got 3 max players right there with you can go get 2 more max players. So LeBron, come on.
They wasn't coming.
Melo, come on. And then what happened was, after you got them, so it would have been you, Dwight, let's just say LeBron and Bosh, right?
It wouldn't.
No, I'm just saying, when Kobe's contract came off.
Oh.
So Kobe's contract would have came off, and then you would have had $30 million where you could have got 2 more max players. So there was like the Lakers would end up with the USA team. And that.
See, I'm visual. I'm gonna have to see that one day. Because the only thing I'm thinking about too is that when Kobe's contract would have been up, because mine was coming up, and the reason I actually got upset when it initially happened too was because when they nixed the trade, they told me on the phone, they said, go to practice and be ready to spend the rest of the year in New Orleans, right? And I was more upset about my bird rights because if I left New Orleans during the summer, I wouldn't be able to sign a 4-year deal. It would have just been a 3-year deal. So it was like a $20 million
difference.
Yeah, hit for me when they nixed the trade. And it was a lot of stuff going on in New Orleans right there, whereas a lot of people don't realize they was talking about moving the team. Like then they had told me and D West that they was gonna move the team to Kansas City. They said they was gonna move the team at one point like to San Diego, all this different type of stuff. So the team was just up in limbo. So it wasn't never like, I wanna get out of New Orleans. It was like this team don't know what they doing, and
yeah, it was just too much. It was too much money. It was too much money left after you guys got together. So think about it. If you got you, Dwight, and Kobe on the same team, and y'all still have enough money, like we're not talking about money where you can go get like JaVale McGee. Like you're talking about you can get Kevin Durant and Melo. Like that's the money you had left over after the hidden deal with Bynum and what's the name. That's how much money you still had left over. So even if one person got off of his contract, you gotta remember at that time, Kobe was on 30, what is it, 30? He was at the 30 mark already?
What, maybe 30 million?
I think he was at 30 million.
I don't know.
Like 30, 20, no, 20, he was at 24. He was about crazy. 24 million.
That's 10 years ago. That's that's crazy.
Yeah, so he was at 24 million. So if he came off his contract, he's at 24. So if they would have been like, yeah, Kobe, we're going to let you go, you still had 24 million. That's still 2 more max players. Now that's what I'm saying. You got, like, low key, you would have the USA starting 5 on one team. And all of it works. One player leaves, you can still add 2. So they rounded up and said 10 years this team would have been, they would have had this team for 10 years. It's unfair, and that's when Mark Cuban called them, and they just veto. Like that was the real main reason all those coaches got that call, because y'all had too much money left over, and it was like this is just too unfair.
Yeah,
it's just too unfair.
I
was like, damn, I might want to go there. Hey, go ahead and try to win one champ.
A lot of it too was. That was the CBA negotiation summer. You know what I mean? So I was on the executive committee then, and people don't know, we were sitting in 16-hour meetings.
Yep.
Right? Like we was at the hotel in New York, the Waldorf. was a 16-hour meeting, right? Just going back and forth. I remember we would be over in this room, us, and still Billy at the time. Yeah, Billy Hunter, and all of us would be over here, and all the owners and whatnot be in this room, and then it'd be like a mediator and be like, all right, let's go to the big room. We all go in this room, and it'd be all this posture and people saying, we want this, we want that. And then David Stern used to undo his tie. He used to get mad and start talking reckless in there, man. And all that experience right there, even at a young age, is what I think helped me. And when I did become the president of the union, of knowing how to, deal with and communicate with the different governors and figure out, what we needed as players.
You know what I like, the misconception of a lockout. Because the way it spreads to the fans that these players make too much money.
Right.
And we need to lock them out. They make too much money. When the truth is, the owners don't all get along because some just make way more than others.
Right.
So what happens is when they trying to talk about revenue share and this and
Revenue
this,
sharing.
and they're like, my team's in LA. I don't know what your team's doing in Memphis. I don't want to. Why am I going to share my Laker money with you? Get it from the players, right? And that's how lockouts start. It doesn't start because of the players are making too much money because, the New York don't care about how much they pay. Mark Cuban don't care how much he paid.
The game is thriving and the players are, there ain't no league without the players.
So it's usually the team that's arguing or complaining the most is because he can't keep his star because someone's offering more. So what happens is when they're trying to revenue share so we can all get a piece of this pie, and everybody's like, yo, that's a bad business over there. It's not my fault. And they're like, well, get it from the players. So you're in a meeting, the richest owners are just sitting there like this.
That's enough.
Oh, man, how much time we got left? And, and people don't understand. It's usually they don't get along and they can't come up to an agreement with themselves. So then they look at the players like, hey, we need 2 year deals. Like, wait,
the players are always doing a hell of a job too. I don't think people talk enough about that. It's players that sacrifice all the time. You know what I mean? All the time. But people always just sort of talk about when a guy's being overpaid or this what.
Oh, I was one of them.
What?
Like when overpaid, he ain't played, and I would say, hey, hold on, listen, the relationship I had with my owner, that's.
What was your last deal, Gil?
111.
How many years?
It was 6 years, 111.
Sheesh.
I played like 15 games, something like that.
15
like
out of the
I played less than 50.
50 out of the whole 6 years of the deal?
Because I was hurt. I was hurt when I got the deal. See, this is a very important thing for just all young players.
Yep.
You have coach, general manager, owner, check writer. Just skip these two motherfuckers and go to just like we're so scared to talk to the guy who writes the check. So like when I first got to Washington, like he told me, he said, just get me out of this Jordan, this Jordan thing, this Jordan disaster, and I'm indebted to you, right? Just like because right then he was getting killed, right, by the media, and free agents was told not to go there. Me, like. So we don't supposed to come here? Well, here I come then. Here I come then. So every day I go up to, hey, Mr. P, hey, how you doing today? What's up? Like, how's the wife? How's the kids? What you about to do? And I'm about to go jog. Oh, come jog with you. So I had a relationship with him, not Eddie, not Ernie, him. Every day we'd go, what's up in the summer? Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I just finished shooting. He'd be like, hey, do you need anything? And I'd be like, some of our staff is a little older, in their 60s and the 70s, and you still got the metal seats, hurt their butt.
Right.
Can we get some cushions?
Right.
Got it. New cushions for everybody. right? You know, the bathrooms does it look like we need
Fix
to,
that.
so I'm, sitting here like his eyes and ear, like, helping them. What's the name? So I remember when I got hurt. I remember I had 3 surgeries in 14 months.
Knee, on the knee.
Yeah, 3 surgeries,
Man.
14 months. So the doctor's already saying, you're not going to be the same player. You're going to have to learn how to play on the ground, right? Mm-hmm. So when I
Real quick, not to cut you off, but it's so crazy. I have a burnt image in my head of us in the practice gym at the Wizards facility, right? I never forget it. I still talk to people about it to this day. And I remember your knee. It's your left knee, wasn't it? And it wouldn't go straight.
Yep.
Like when I say like
Still
wouldn't
won't
go straight, but like cause I done had surgery on my left knee before, and like a lot of times, somebody tell you to straighten your leg out, but if Gil sit down and his left leg over there, it's gonna be up off the ground like this. And I never forget it, cause like all that stuff has always stuck with me, and it teaches you like rehab. Rehab. Like if it's one thing that I always say that I could change one thing in my career, right? It ain't winning the finals when we should have or whatnot. It's just not. If it's one thing, it's I would have took my rehab a lot more serious when I had surgery back in 2009, 2010, because I still have to stay on it every day now because of that.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
same with me. That's the one thing, like, not the gun, this red head solves all problems.
To the point where like when I see guys get injured sometimes in the league that I know, like I call them. Like we played against DeJounte Murray, who I knew because of Jamal Crawford. He got hurt against us in preseason when I played in Houston. And I remember calling him, I think it was when I was in Houston. It's Houston or it was recently, like a couple years ago. And I called him and I was like, look, man, like everybody gonna tweet about you, right? Tonight, tomorrow, prayers up to my brother, you know what I'm saying? That's what everybody do.
Yeah.
Get well, all this stuff like that. But then a week go by, ain't nobody hitting you. You know what I mean? So I told him, I was like, look, man, like rehab is harder than playing. Like make sure you attack it every day. And 3 weeks from now, because everybody forget about you when you hurt. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing I tell anybody, like rehab. Like that's hard.
That's what I said. That was, Like rehab, like I was so focused on trying to just get my place back so I wouldn't lose it. So I just wanted to play. So like when we were negotiating, my negotiation matched my injury. They offered me, the general manager offered me $80 million for 5 years, right? $80 million for 5 years. And I'm sitting here like, I'm a 3-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA player, and you offer me $80 million for 5 years? I said, Golden State offered me 101 for 5 years, right? So I'm in the airport next day, going because I got my China tour, and phone rings and it's Mr. Poland. Like, he ain't calling unless that shit's serious. So like I'm already prepping myself, like be strong. Like I ain't taking the 80, right? Like be strong. So I was like, hey, how you doing, Mr. P? He was like, it's yours. The max is yours. I said, huh? Don't worry about what they did last night. I just found out the max is yours. You did everything that you said you were gonna do. You did. I don't care what they said. Your knee might not be the same. You might not be the same player. That has nothing to do with me. You're my guy. The max is whatever the max is, 120, 127, whatever it is yours, you do with what you want.
Damn.
If you want to give some to your teammate, do it. If you don't, that's you. It's yours.